1, and we're live. Welcome again to another live Let's Practice. Today, Chopin Prelude number 4 in E minor. We're going to have a nice look at this piece. So Chopin wrote these preludes in Valdemosa in Majorca, where he would go with George Sand, and he was rather sick there, but wrote a lot of nice music, among them these preludes, and a lot of them are incredibly difficult, some of the most difficult things he wrote. But this one here is one of the easiest ones and quite accessible. So if you're a beginner and looking for an easy Chopin piece to play, this one is pretty good, that's for sure. So let's have a good look at this piece. I'll just start by saying there are so many different ways to play this piece. There's not just one way to play it. It's really a fantastic piece that you can just take and play with it in a spontaneous way, in the way that you feel like playing it in the moment. But of course, there's some things that will make it more coherent, make more sense, and we're definitely going to have a look at that. So I would like to start here. I always kind of try to wait and get some people to connect, but anyway, I have a sign here that says unable to connect to chat, so I hope I get this chat thing working well. Here we go. I'm just going to open this in another window, and I'm going to play you this piece once. There we have it. Here's the stream. Okay, so here we go. Here, let's have a first shot at this now. Let's have a look at this lovely piece. Hi to everyone joining the stream. Hi, Tom T. Hi, Bill. Okay, so as I said, there's a lot of different ways of playing this piece. There is not one way of playing this. Some people play it much faster. Some people play it slower. Okay, so I like to take a little time in the very beginning. So not starting in tempo, but linger a little on the upbeat, and subdivide in your head. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's very nice. Probably the problem that I think people have the most in this piece is putting too much rubato in a way where you stop. You know, so for example, stopping would be like this. I'll stop on the first beat. So we don't have a flow because it keeps stopping. So it's important not to stop too much. If you want to stop, be strategic in your stopping. pick maybe one place where you stop. That's really interesting. If you ever heard a recording of Cortot play this, that's really interesting also. I think he does something like this. I have a problem with this note on the piano, so I was worried I wouldn't be able to play that. If I really hit this C here, I don't get it, but if I go at it gently, I can get the sound. So there we have it. Okay, so don't stop too much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Once you have this, the accompaniment should help the melody have some kind of resonance. So you do that by listen to the melodic note, listen to it ring while you play the chords. And ideally what should happen is that the chords, these ones here in the left hand, should actually bring out more of the tones, the harmonics and overtones in the melodic notes. You just keep listening to that note while you're playing the chord. So right, some people like to go. Some people, I like that. Some people go more to the first beat. That's also nice because it shows the harmony, brings out the harmony in the left hand. What if you did both? You brought out to this note and then show the change in harmony. 2, 3, and it's possible. It gives us a lot of rubato. I like this. Now the harmony doesn't change. So B, more B, less A. Here we have a harmonic change with the D sharp in the left hand. I like to hit it with the fourth finger. 5 is really short. So you can maybe stick out that fourth finger a little, get the D sharp a bit more. Again, B, A, and then like this one, A, B. I really feel it that way. It depends on you. As I said, there's so many ways of playing this, but there's something that seems very insistent and obsessive about that that B there. So we have C, B, C, B, C, B, B flat, A, B natural, A, B natural, A, and then again that B natural, resolving on a syncopation, right? The A, G sharp. So you get this kind of harmony there. Hi to everyone joining the stream. We're looking at Chopin Prelude number 4 in E minor. So it's tempting to resolve this A down here. But since this is a syncopated note, which will become a foreign note in this chord, it's a suspension. Don't play that G sharp too soft. Should be more of a syncopation. So you can bring that out. That's really nice if you have that. So also a little more on this. Maybe one of the trickiest things in this music is taking things too literally that Chopin writes. You know, all these crescendos, swells, diminuendos. It's very tricky with Chopin. He's not a master at putting things on paper. He's a master at improvising. So sometimes there's a little decrescendo and it's for the left hand, or there's a crescendo and it's for the inner voice that's hidden. Not in this piece, but so that could be a little tricky. You know, I don't know how you would write something like that better than he did. You know, some people even think that Fontana was writing for him. But he seems to be clear about having a swell here. More here and back down and back to here less. I used to like to do the grace note on the beat. I used to like to do it on the beat like this. Same thing at the end of the piece. You can do it either way. I seem to like it more this way now. This is a weird fingering to put 1 here on the G. 1, 4, 2, 1. But definitely having the 1 on the right hand down here helps. So you could also do swish the fingers here. If you have 5-4, switch the 4 for a 5, and then you're all set. If you have big enough hands to do this, 3-2 or 3 and change it for a 4. If you want a simple fingering, just do what's written: 1-4-2, 1-2-3. All right, now this is a little transitory moment, right? We're going from the beginning to the end here, and you can take time if you want here. I think a lot of people just miss that triplet and don't play it in a way that it really comes out, you know? So let's say we do it very metered for now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2, 4 and 1, that kind of thing. So you're clear about the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then we start to, you know, add a little bit of rubato. Fontana is one of Chopin's best friends who is helping. He was like his secretary, helping him with a lot of things. So some people, you know, my teacher used to think that Fontana was maybe even writing some of the music that Chopin was playing, because he wasn't. It wasn't his forte, was not putting it on paper. Liszt says the same thing about Chopin. He says, but you write one thing and you play the opposite. How come? You know, Chopin would play a mazurka at the beginning of a concert, and it was a mazurka, and he would play the same mazurka again at the end, and it was like almost like a nocturne, like a completely different piece with a completely different tempo. So you can imagine the kind of freedom that can be had in his music. There's never just one way of doing it. But again, I always come back to this. There's some things that make more sense. There's some things which are logical to do. If you bring out the structure of his piece and show how it's built together, that is the most expressive thing the listener can have, is to understand the structure, not just to bring out some dissonance, which is a good idea. But number one is that the structure is being brought out. So in this case, this we can take time there because it's in between the two sections of the piece. So that makes sense. That's kind of helping us, although it's very obvious because the left-hand figuration has just stopped for the first time. So I like to do something maybe like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. But you could do that in a few ways. You could go ya da da da, but you could also go da ya da da da. Do a crescendo on that triplet. There's a few ways of doing that. If you can bring out the bass when it changes those notes in the left hand, that's a little tricky. You have to learn how to voice the chords, how to get more bass. We have that C there. And it's not just the note that's different, but you go something like B, 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 C, 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 as if you're a bass section or cello is doing this. Si, 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 do, do. You make a little swell. Little accent he writes on that C. Now in some editions that accent's a little bigger and looks like a decrescendo. Was it a decrescendo? Who knows? These are things that, you better not be too literal in your interpretation here. I like the Mikuli edition, the Schirmer's Mikuli edition. I know people always get surprised. They're like, why are you using Schirmer's? I thought Schirmer's was so bad. Schirmer's is not very good if you're playing Beethoven and Bach and Haydn and things like that. It's a very cheap edition. It's not expensive. But editions from composer to composer aren't quite the same. And Mikuli was actually one of Chopin's students. So is actually a very good source. Mikuli Schirmer's editions for Chopin are great. They're better than Henley, I think. Way better. And, Peters, which is a little more expensive than this, is terrible, 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 terrible. I always tell the story of this one time I'm learning this second sonata. And nothing made sense to me. I had everything backwards, and I played this for my teacher, and he just scribbled everything out. Changed everything. It was like the opposite of what was written there. And I thought after, gee, it makes so much more sense. Everything makes sense now. All right. Sorry for that little cough, guys. I'm still alive. All right. Coming back to that transition here, and we'll finish this up. A little more of that C for sure. Right? So you can take a little time there. Maybe on one of those two notes. Both might be a little excessive. All right, guys, I'm having a coughing fit here. All right, here we go. See how you could do that also with a crescendo? Different harmony from the beginning now. Getting intense. So he does write stretto. I think this is why some people like, is it Cortot? I think it's Cortot has some very eccentric recording of this piece, but they actually accelerate. He actually accelerates in this section, which stretto would indicate that every beat should come a little sooner and sooner and sooner than the last. So not everyone does it. Again, what did Chopin really want, and what did he write? And certainly the way he played it was different every time he played it. He never played it the same way, right? Make sure this ornament is shaped. I think a lot of people have heard this many times. It's just too fast and it becomes ornamental rather than part of the lyricism. Give it a little bit. Let those ornamental notes speak. They're not just decorations like in more Italian music, let's say. So yeah, I think Cortot does like an octave lower here and maybe a fortissimo. So it's probably excessive. But again, as I keep saying, there's a lot of different ways to play this piece. There's not just one way, so... That's also fine. You can go with a little bit the way you feel it in the moment, and as well the way the listener feels it, because when someone listens to you, the listener changes the way you play as well. If you're attentive to... If you're present with how they feel, you invite them in your bubble when you're playing the music, right? love this harmony. And double suspension again. Lovely triplet there. Yum, button, pa, pa. That's, you know, more advanced students will find that easy. Crescendo here to the 6th degree, C major. Surprise cadence. It's not the cadence yet. With the 7th, smorzando, we're dying down. I like to take this chord with 4, 3, 5 in the left hand. I just feel like it's easier to voice with 4. Any tips at how to play the left hand softer and the right hand louder? Sure, we'll get into that, Lobo. Thanks for that question. Crescendo to C major. That's also good because it gives you more room to die down. Less and less and less and less, but we want to hear every note in this. I wasn't so happy with the way I voiced these chords in the end, but I feel like that F sharp is important. Maybe the E and the F sharp. It just brings out this 7th with the top notes. And this chord, especially the 1 and 2, so that's the F sharp, B, D, F. There's a way of playing where you can go a bit like this. This is, I always associate this as a European thing because I learned it in Europe. And I had a lot of friends who studied here in North America and had all this North American technique and went to live in Europe and started really playing that way. So you can sometimes go like this, chung, and sometimes chung more into the center. And that brings out the notes a little more in the center. We were talking about that last week with this. This, getting the inner notes, it makes the chord much more rich. Right? And the last thing we didn't mention here is 2, 3, slow down, 1, 2, off. We have 2 beats with the fermata, right? It's a little long. 4. It's very hard to voice on this piano, but I would like that softer. We need a better piano to really feel free to do this. Yeah, all right. Favorite Chopin piece? Is this your favorite Chopin piece or my favorite Chopin piece? I love the Polonaise Fantasy. That's probably one of my favorites. Barcarolle, the 3rd Sonata too. I love that 3rd Sonata. It's so beautiful. And right. So one of the things that helps to play weightless and everything soft, we'll get into the balance question a little later, is tighten the abdominal a little bit, squeeze the belly button into the spine. What happens is the spine lengthens and you put less weight into the keys. It's actually a lot easier to get that sound if I activate these abdominal muscles, lengthen the spine. Of course, I'm using the left pedal here. 2, 3, 4, maybe more of those, the 5th in the left hand there. Okay, so, all right, we'll get into that question. Still try to play this good, but it's hard. Yeah, you know, Chopin is always difficult, even if it's a rather easy piece. Wonderful piece indeed. Hi, Uwe, Cosmic Boy, Boris, Montefabo. All right, I take sections and repeat until I know it, but I've heard chunking and looping. Chunking and looping. Okay, that chunking means like you break it into a section, you work on that, and then you connect it to the rest. I've never used those words, chunking and looping. Sounds like something an animal would do. Yeah, take sections and repeat it. It's a very good idea for sure. In the early stages of learning the piece, that's the best thing to do. Maybe a bit untempo though. Yeah, well, that again depends on how you like it. I did take that a little fast. That could be a little fast. Why don't you try to purchase Steinway or Bosendorf or Bechstein or Fazioli? It might cost a lot, probably be worth it. Man, I've been thinking about that, really. I mean, that would be really cool. I'm super poor right now, so I can't afford it, but I'm thinking about maybe starting a GoFundMe or something. That would be really cool. Okay, the balance. How to get the left hand softer. That's a really general question, you know? How to get the left hand softer in general. Start by being able to play the left hand alone soft. Because I think the challenge is when you put the two hands together. You have this soft, soft sound. And then here you want a more ringing sound, a more expressive sound. So, okay, there's a few things you can try. When you're playing this very soft, you're not digging into the key. If you haven't seen the video, how the mechanic of inside a piano looks like, it's somewhere years ago on this channel. Check out that video. So there's something called a double escapement in the mechanic of the piano, and there's a stick that's called the jack and a roller, and basically whenever you play a note, usually there's a friction that happens between that jack and roller. It goes like this: talk, talk, talk. So that's what you feel on the grand piano, where there's a little bump there when you put a note down. Maybe even on some uprights you feel it. That's what's happening. That little jack, the stick, is rubbing against the roller, and it triggers the mechanism so that it does like this. However, if you play with speed and not too much weight, what happens is you hit the note a little faster, so the hammer hits the string before that mechanism gets triggered. It might get triggered afterwards if you go all the way to the bottom, but the hammer has already hit the string, and that makes a different kind of sound. So you work on getting that kind of ringing sound that's not expressive, not triggering that mechanism. You play higher on the keys. Doesn't mean you don't go down to the key bed, but the attack is higher. And then in the right hand, we're doing exactly the opposite. We're going for a more expressive sound. So practice things like that. This is a good piece to practice balance of two hands, because the right hand isn't playing so much. So you could certainly, if you have trouble putting the hands together and getting the balance, you could certainly do this, just the left hand, and then play a note in the right hand, more expressive. And now come back to left hand. And it's crucial that you hear what's going on. So when you hear that note ringing, and this a very different sound, aha, now your inner ear is kind of registering what this is supposed to sound like. And the inner ear is the ultimate commander, let's say, that's telling your body exactly what to do, how to play to get the kind of sound that you want to get. Yes, good idea. Hope it'll work. I really do hope it'll work too. I just might do that. I've been really thinking about it. It's nice to have this piano, but something a little more Steinway-like would be great. I love Steinways. So there we have it, guys. I think that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, we could probably go on and on about this piece forever, you know. We could do it again sometimes. There's so many things you can do with it. Try to be creative. You can listen to a bunch of recordings. I think the really the most disturbing thing that happens in this piece is that the rubato gets extremely excessive to a point where you stop all the time, and you don't want to stop all the time. You can stop maybe in one specific place, maybe two, you know? Once this train is rolling, it keeps going. Maybe you slow down a little bit like that, but without stopping. Maybe we stop here. Let's try this. See how that's kind of nice? More on that nose. Crescendo here. That gives us room to die down. Two, three, four. It's always louder, that chord. All right, what's the piece for next week? That's a good question, actually. What is the piece for next week? I don't know what it is yet. Someone mentioned Debussy, Rêverie. That could be a good piece. What pieces do you guys want to hear? Shopping for pianos can be a minefield. I noticed in the previous video you mentioned you really like the sound of your old upright. Yeah, I'm always talking about that. What kind of sound do you look for in a piano? Well, I just love a piano that has this beautiful tone. I love the tone of that old upright. It was an old piano. It had too many problems, so but there was some notes. It'd be nice if they were all like that, but they just sounded so good, you know? So I like that when this one's really metallic. I think the tone is the thing I look for the most, you know. It's a tricky thing. Pianos are all different, you know. But personally, I don't like new pianos. I find the old ones are the ones that have that kind of tone, that like there's a personality, there's a woody sound to it. So I would definitely take an old piano, an old restored piano over a new one anytime. I find, you know, until they're played on for at least 10, 15 years, they don't sound quite as good. I know they're worth more, but to me, they're worth much less. So, yeah. Hola, bro. Hi, Ivan. Okay, guys, so maybe we'll do that. Maybe Debussy, Rêverie. That could be a good piece. We'll see. I haven't decided yet what we're going to do next week. If you particularly want to work on something, leave a comment in the comments. Leave a comment in the comments. And, you know, maybe we'll do it. If you like the stream, don't forget to like the video. That's really helpful for me. Subscribe to the channel also if you like the content. And we're going to be live again next week at 12 as usual. And that's it. So over and out. Peace out, guys.